And good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money in the Law here at My FM 101.3. I'm your host, along with my other host, Jay Marsden. Actually, I'm not Jay Marsden. I'm John Droyan. Jay Marsden is right next to me. We are your hosts on your favorite morning show, Money in the Law. And we're also joined once again by the Holliston Cable Access TV,
Always.
who can see us now.
Yes,
because
that's right.
Yep, they can see us. So. As many of you know, of our loyal listeners, and if you're a new listener, here's what you're in for the next hour. You get to hear about all things.
You get to experience.
You get it is an experience.
It is an experience.
Right, and if you're fortunate enough to get to see it, then you get to see it. It's a
multimedia experience.
Right, you get to see it. It's two-dimensional.
That's right.
So you get to experience things we talk about. We talk about all things that are like financial things, as well as all things that are legal, but we do it in such a way that allows people to not only understand it, but to appreciate it, I think, a little bit.
You're wrapped with attention. You are glued to the television or the radio.
And the radio. And again, if you're driving, we don't advise you to pull over unless, there's something really good that you want to take notes about.
Yeah. Don't take notes while you're driving.
No, don't take notes while you're driving.
They frown on that.
But I guarantee you'll learn something today. I guarantee there'll be, and you may learn that you may never want to listen to the show again.
Oh, never.
Unlikely.
No,
unlikely.
Very
but
unlikely.
you may learn something about whatever the topic of the day is. And,
money or the law.
Money or the
law.
law.
So keep it simple.
So how are you doing today?
Doing well, my friend. Doing well. Just this that crazy time of the year. We just come off school vacation week, which we've joked about it before. If you're not going somewhere, it's a long week.
It is a long week. It's longer than the February vacation.
It is. If the weather doesn't cooperate, then it's even worse, right? But I know that all the 8th graders were down in D.C. They had a blast. They saw everything. Big Ben Parliament, Big Ben Parliament, Big Ben Parliament. I believe you were herding those cats down there as well.
I was lucky to go.
Great local event. My daughter came back with a couple of great tchotchkes for me as part of her experience.
That's right. Did she not bring a signed copy of the Declaration of Independence?
I believe one of the original 3. I think she said she picked that up at the National Archives. They were literally giving it away. So she grabbed on one of those and brought that to the office. And so we're working on having that mounted and framed. And we're going to hang that in the office to show our dedication to the Declaration.
I had a great question when we were down there. So we're in the Capitol building, and there is a framed, kind of very eloquent picture of our elaborate picture of the Declaration of Independence, and it's framed, and it's like there's standoff and there's lights on it, right? But also there's pictures, actual pictures of all the signers around the Declaration, and someone actually came up to me and said, "Is that the real Declaration of Independence?" I said, "Well, no, because I don't think they actually drew their own picture on after they signed their name." So
That's right. That's how they did it back. That was the early selfie. That's the the colonial selfie. Yeah, it took a little while. You try to take a Snapchat of yourself. And
it was hard to get them all to get on there. Hey, you draw your picture right there. They're all actually very good artists.
Yeah, they're great.
You didn't realize that John Hancock was such a gifted artist.
Well, founding father, you have to have some skills. It wasn't just they were all Renaissance people, right?
It wasn't all just talking in front of a crowd.
That's right. That's exactly right. So it was a good trip. Good. Got the kids had a blast. And other than that, just we've had some turns in the weather here, so it's been finally feels like spring, which is good.
Well, and with spring comes like kind of the after April vacation kind of comes that run for summer, right?
Oh yeah.
And that for those of you who have kids in school, that's kind of like someone said to me Chloe said to me there's 40 more days left in school.
The countdown is on. Oh, it's on. Yeah. There's no messing around.
But what comes with that is is the month of May, and then into the month of June, which I think May is right up there with September as the busiest month. From if there's a lot of sports, there's a couple of sports that are going on at the same time.
There's a lot of year-end stuff. There's a year-end banquet for this and a year-end banquet for that, which it doesn't always need to be. Doesn't always need to be. Just because something ended does not mean that there has to be some type of 4-hour award ceremony.
No,
you can kind of you can pat everybody in the back and applaud on the field, and everybody can go home. It doesn't have to involve.
Well, I know. I mean, but you are not one you don't shy so much away from ceremonies. You will go to a ceremony.
Oh, I'll go to a ceremony. But actually, it's funny. Riley and I talked about this last night. She was talking about the semi-formal coming up, and she was talking about kids making the equivalent of a promposal, which I have struggled with for a whole bunch of reasons.
The promposal is kind of gotten out of hand.
Exactly. Yeah. So she said to me, so they're actually doing the same thing around the semi. So I said, well, we got to come up for a name for that. So our name that we came up with was, you got a semi-suggestion.
Semi-suggestion.
All right, you
not
like
bad.
that? So,
not
all right.
bad.
Hashtag. And so I said to her that the problem is that you build so much ceremony into essentially what in many cases are just the basics. You know, a basic accomplishment gets this big ceremony, right? It goes back to this idea of, oh my God, your kid walked across the room. Let's throw him a party, right?
That's right.
So I said, you know,
the trophy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I said the prom is supposed to be special, right? That's a special part of your life. So let's not promposal everything, right?
We're not celebrating. We don't have to celebrate everything. We have to celebrate.
That's right.
Yeah, because you want to celebrate the things that actually stand out. It's funny, the promposal, that whole concept. I mean, in theory, it's cool, but I think it's just grown so much that now it puts too much pressure on everybody. So if you get a promposal that's not up to your standard, then it's like, my guy doesn't care.
How about if you get a no? How about just flat out? How about if you get a no? I mean, you rent an air balloon to fly in. You're going to parachute out of a plane. You're going to land in the middle of it. You're going to unveil a banner, and they say, "I'm going with Tom. You're out of luck."
Oh
Sorry.
yeah, if you'd talked to me 10 minutes ago,
yeah. If you
maybe.
just come up to me in the hallway and ask me, maybe. So I don't know. It's a sign of the times. Sign of my age is just settling in here. I become cratchety about anything that brings joy to other people. That's basically where it's
going.
going.
On that note.
Yeah, that's right. That's where it goes. All right. On that note,
let's get to work.
Yeah, let's get to work.
So today we talked about this on the way in. Oh, by the way, thanks for giving me a ride in again today. It's almost like I don't have a car, but I do.
You enjoy the time. I know. A lot of people do.
I do. So we're going to talk about retiring early and how people can actually retire. We get, and it's come up in our practice just this week and yours as well, and it's the whole concept of, when do people retire? Normally, like the retirement years are kind of, like age 65. Years ago, it's been like 65. That's when Social Security would kick in. Now it's 66, and then for us, it's going to be 67. So oftentimes I kind of associated with that number. The year, or maybe like 60 is another. In the old days where people had pensions, a lot of times people would retire in and around age 60. Like that's when that pension, you'd be fully vested in your pension.
Yep.
So now in our practice, I think retirement age is probably, we look at when they reach that full Social Security age, and we'll go into why that is. But the idea of, so if I can collect my full Social Security at age 66, then that's when I start looking. That's when I start thinking, okay, in and around that time.
You're in the ballpark.
Like in and around that time. Now, what we were talking about today is what I'd like to talk about is the idea of, what does retiring early mean? Like, and maybe some of the reasons as to why some people would retire early. I mean, everybody's like, you talk to people who work, and they kind of been working for the same place. They're like, oh, I'd love to retire. I'd love to retire. And you say, well, that's great. You want to retire, but why do you want to retire? Do I want to retire because I don't like my job? Because I'm sick of it? Do I want to retire because there's a million other things I want to do that my job is holding me back? So I want to go into that. I want to, and then sort of the mechanics of how you retire early, because that's the thing, right? Wouldn't it be great if none of us had to work? But we all need to work. I mean, people need to work because they need to make money, because you need money to live.
Money helps, yeah. Money helps. We like money. We love money.
And so if you're, if you're getting close to that position where you have enough saved money, or you have enough income sources, potential income sources, once you leave like working for the man, then that discussion of being able to retire earlier than you had originally planned could be made a reality. So
all right, so let's go to a quick break. We'll come back and we'll talk about
how you're going to retire early.
I'd love it.
Everybody says
I'll talk about that all day long.
Everybody says, but I'm telling you right now, you're not going to retire early.
No. And we'll talk about that after the break.
But I know why. But it's not because of money. He has a lot of money. There's plenty of money. It's not a money thing.
Save it.
You're a selectman. Because of that selectman, kicker that you
that huge kicker. Yeah, that huge kicker. That right there. That alone would keep me going.
Money as a selectman to retire.
That would keep me going.
We'll take a break. We'll be right back, and we'll talk about the reality of how to retire early, why you retire early, and should you or shouldn't you.
So you listen to Money and Law here at MyFM 101.3, broadcasting live from the New England Bonsai Studio Gardens, our garden studios, right?
And we're surrounded by it.
It's lush.
We're surrounded by it. On TV, you can't see it because it's all behind Christian. We're all behind Christian.
Yeah, it's like a wall of greenery behind him. It's unbelievable. So we can barely see him. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
What is that? Was that an anaconda? We'll be right back. And we're back here on
You
Money
stole
in the
my.
Law.
Yeah,
No,
that's
you missed
mine.
it.
I bring it back in. Go
You
ahead.
just took us out.
No, that's fine. We're back. Money Law,
Starting
My
it.
FM 101.3. Jay Marsden, Marsden Law Group, John Drohan. Main Effort Financial. Christian manning the con here in the New England Bonsai Garden Studios. Money in the Law, talking early retirement. You know, you mentioned all the great reasons that people want to retire, or all the possible reasons. You mentioned that the options are endless. Driving in here, we were talking about, you know, case studies, if you will. And I had mentioned that, you know, you might retire for reasons related to health. Right? You might have somebody in your family or in your relationship that's health is somewhat compromised, and you might say to yourself, you know, we want to retire early because this is our window, right? Somebody gets a bad diagnosis, something happens, God forbid. They might say, look, you know what? We know that the path is going to get more challenging and that the struggle is only going to get harder down the road because of these health issues. We want to retire now while we still have our health, while we can enjoy it, while we can do some of the things that we've talked about. So the retirement piece is not necessarily always, you know, riding off into the sunset for what potentially would be greatness. You know, there's some issues where you got to pick and choose your battles, and you say, yeah, we would have loved to have waited to retire 5 years, 7 years, pick a number, but we want to retire now because we've been thrown this curveball, and we want to build this curveball into our plans, and we want to, you know, we want to incorporate some of the things that we've talked about. So.
Right. So what better, you know, kind of example is something like that where someone's like, hey, look, I have a choice, right?
Yeah.
I have a choice. I can you know, do my job where I commute, you know, an hour into work every day and an hour home, and I make plenty of money. But what's going to happen is, you know, like in the example that we were talking before, where, you know, if someone, like in your case, where someone has an early onset Alzheimer's, right? A young person, you know, in their probably early 60s has a, you know, Alzheimer's starting, you know, things are different.
Yeah.
And then you're on the clock, right?
Yes,
like I'm on the clock, and I'm like, okay, I have a choice here. Now, financially, is it going to be like this glorious retirement that, you know, that I had planned? Probably not. You know,
well, if you had planned to work 10 more years, you're absolutely right. Because at some point when you get to your 50s, you're in your highest earning years, and that's really when you have the biggest impact on your ability to chunk a lot of money away
right?
for
So
retirement.
if you're kind of the average, you know, family, and, you know, of our listeners, you have a couple of kids. And your kids, you know, you're going to help your kids get through college as best you can. And then once your kids get through college and you're 55, 56, you know, whatever, however old you are, now it's like, hey, now I can see the barn. Like and this is what we tell our clients. We're like, hey, you can't say too much.
No.
Like you can't say too much. So now's the time where, like you said, where, you know, you're probably earning, you know, more than you were 10 years ago. Hopefully you were earning more if you're kind of in the same line of work or in the same company. So you're earning more money. So now's the time, and there's no more college costs. There's no more kind of the extraneous costs. And now you're just banking as much as you can for retirement. And then you get thrown this screwball where, oh, you know, I have a choice. I can either continue to do this, but I'm going to miss out on the next 5 years, which could be the best 5 years.
Yes, absolutely right.
You know, of my retirement. So.
And you hit before the break. You hit on a good concept or a good issue, which is this idea that, you know, there are some people who work in a system where the system says, here's a formula, right? Follow this formula, right? At, you know, your age plus number of years of service, you're going to get this much money based on this, right? It's like literally it's plug and play. It's all done for you. Yeah. But for many folks, that's not an option. There is no formula, right? The formula is if you don't save for retirement, you may never retire. There is no when you're done this way. So they have to do a little bit more homework to say, how much money do I need? When can I get out? When does it work for me? They
come to a guy like you or me, and they say, okay, hey, what do you think? You know, what is it feasible for me to retire? And so, and we'll do it. You know, I'm a retirement guy. I love talking to people.
Oh, yeah.
I love getting ready for, because that's what we do. Like, you know, our job, you know, like as in the financial world, we say this, all roads lead to retirement.
Well, and that's the fun part of the job. It's the whole reason you get in the industry is to say, okay, so you've worked 30 years, right? Let's talk about some fun stuff. Yeah. Let's not talk about nursing homes, right? Which is what we talk about all day. Let's talk about the other part of it. That's a gas. Let's talk about, you know, what you want to do. Let's talk about the fun stuff. What do you want? Lay it out, right? Let's talk like the commercials on television, right? Let's talk about it. That's
guys with the big handlebar mustaches, right?
Silver hair,
surfing, right?
Yep, surfing.
Surfboard in their hand.
Yeah, get a better build than you and I had when we were 20, and he's like 78, right?
Lean, mean fighting machine.
This guy, how many strokes a day is he paddling off, right? Guy was about, you know, $180, solid as a rock. Yeah. I'm falling out of bed, hurting my back, right? So different story. But yeah, let's talk about it. Early retirement. So how do you discuss it with clients? What do you talk about?
So the idea. So let's talk about the kind of the years. So if someone says, okay, I'm thinking about retiring early, and of course, in order to be what retirement means, essentially, it's defined as is that you're no longer going to work. You're no longer going to work for for whatever your income source that you were doing before. Now, does retirement mean you're not going to work anymore? No, not necessarily.
Absolutely.
But we kind of define it as I'm no longer working for my primary job that I had been doing for X amount of years up to this point. So
and work isn't the primary source of your income anymore. Like to some degree, you may be using what you've saved and what you've put away to draw off.
Yeah. So then it says, okay. So then we go, okay. Well, what do you have in your war chest? We call it our what do I have in there? And that's money that's dedicated for retirement. So we start off with all your your retirement assets, like your 401ks, your IRAs, all the things that you've invested in over time and have gotten the tax break on it because they are to be used for retirement. So,
well, and I think we've talked about on the show before, which is for those pieces of the puzzle, it's crystal clear that that's retirement money because the name of the account has the word retirement right in it, right? I mean,
yes, it does.
We've talked about this concept of people struggling with the idea that if it's not an IRA, what's it for?
Yeah.
And I agree with you. It's all for retirement.
Yeah.
But the idea is, you've got these accounts that are very specifically earmarked, and there's specific tax treatment for them for retirement.
Yeah, the government has built these things in order to encourage you to use them in retirement. Use them. You're not going to use them when you're 45 years old. You're going to use them when you're 60 years old or 65 years old. So there's your money that's dedicated for retirement, and then there's other money, right? Then there's other assets that you may have. You may have money like in the classic J. Marsden brokerage account. That's not dedicated for retirement.
Yep.
But it could be, it might be, it may well be, but it's money that you have, right?
Yeah.
It's money that you have in some sort of an account that you could apply towards your war chest, right? Put it back in our war chest. Then the next thing we look at is okay, what fixed income, what money do we have a pension, right?
What lifetime income do you have?
That's right. Am I fortunate enough to have a pension if I'm a government employee or if I work for a company that has a private pension? Do I have some kind of defined benefit plan that's going to provide for me? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. And then I look at, okay, what about the government defined benefit plan, which is Social Security?
Yes, it is.
Social Security has some rules that go along with it, particularly if you're going to retire early, right? So we talked earlier about, all right, the retirement age, the normal kind of retirement age that people use as a guideline is that full Social Security. So if I'm born before 1960, then my full Social Security is age 66. After 1960, it gradually goes up until it goes to 67, which is guys like you and me.
Yep.
Young.
Yep.
Young.
Healthy, fit.
Healthy.
Handsome, bulletproof.
Middle-aged. I don't know about bulletproof, but we're there. But
early middle age? I'm saying that's the thing, right? Early middle age, not middle age, not older middle age. Early middle age.
Yeah, we're on the
pre-middle age.
We're on the short side.
You heard it right. By the way, you heard it right here. This is a new thing. I'm making it up right now. We're pre-mids.
Pre-middle age.
Pre-mids.
Yeah,
pre-mids.
Yeah,
not millennials. Pre-mids.
Pre-mids.
Yep.
Yeah, it sounds a little like you're.
Good. Yuck it up. When it's on the cover of AARP in like 6 months. Are you a pre-mid? I'm telling you right now.
Are you a pre-mid?
Yep.
Yeah. Think about retiring early.
Pre-mids.
Listen to the show.
Right in.
All right. So
Hashtag.
so Social Security. Now I can begin to. The earliest I can take Social Security, no matter when I was born, is age 62. Right. But if I take Social Security age 62, it's going to be a reduced benefit.
Yes.
Right. And remember, the rules of Social Security, it doesn't change. Right. Social Security doesn't change once you start.
Oh yeah. Once you pull the trigger, the check you get.
There's no changing.
That's it. So can't go back. Although, well, whatever. You can't go back.
Although what?
There are instances where if somebody does do something like that, where they say, hey, I pull the trigger at 62, right, because I think I'm going to do Social Security. They do it for a year. And then they say, you know what, I inherited some money. Mom and dad passed away. I don't need this 60. You can pay them back and do it all over again. Never happens.
Yeah,
but
it's never happened ever, but theoretically you can do it. You've heard it from your attorney.
Yep, that's right.
So the idea of starting, but remember 62 that's the earliest you can take it. So when we talk about, when someone says to me, I want to retire early, we're probably looking at something earlier than 62, right? So if they're going to retire at 62, then I'm like, okay, well, the reduced Social Security is an option, so that could be a potential income source. And
I think what you're suggesting is when you say, look, I'm going to retire early, I think if you approach it the same way we approach it, is you say, okay, so let's assume you're not working. Let's assume that you're not doing what you're doing right now, right? Where's your money going to come from?
Yeah, well,
without even getting into, I think what you're highlighting is, what's your war chest and what's your sources of income. So you have to start in some respects, say, well, where would your income come from if you didn't work?
Yeah.
Because that's what you're doing. That's what retirement is. It's basically unemployment, right? That's what it is, right?
That's right.
Could be, right?
It's unemployment. But you're happy as a clam to be unemployed.
Oh, I think you are. Yeah, I think you are.
But the other potential source of income, right? So we talked about our war chest. We talked about our guaranteed lifetime income. And that also, the other part of like kind of what gets dedicated to retirement is like, people may have a second home. They may have a house like in Arlington, and they may downsize their house and take some of that money, go buy a cheaper house, take some of that money and use that to generate retirement. But that all kind of goes into the war chest. But the third one is if they get a job, right? So in retirement.
Huge.
So oftentimes, and many of our retired clients, they get a job and they work. Now they're not working for the man. I'm not, taking the train into Boston every day.
It's not a grind. It's not a grind.
I'm not driving up, I'm not driving to Waltham every day.
Yep.
But you know what I do? I work 2 days a week for a local company and I help out, or, what about this? I mean, think about this in retirement. I teach 2 classes a week at Boston College about financial planning. Like, how fun would that be? All day long, right?
Get to talk about myself, get to talk about stuff that I do.
All,
yeah.
So oftentimes people they'll have another source of income. Maybe they work for, and we'll say this, like, have you ever wanted to work for yourself, right? If you have like 35 years of, pick the industry experience, why can't you be a consultant? I mean, people love consultants.
Well, but I guess what I would say is, my suggestion on that, and I understand where you're going with it, is you need to have some foresight around this, right? And when I say that, what I mean is, lawyers are the greatest example, right? Every lawyer thinks that they're going to retire, and then they're going to pick up the phone, and they're going to call, I don't know, pick a law school, right?
Yeah.
BC, and they're going to be like, hey, guess what? I'm a retired lawyer.
I'm your guy.
Okay? And what are the chances I could come in there and teach 1 class a week for like $120 a year? I mean, my experience is legendary, right? So there needs to,
Mr. Cochran, I'm afraid that's not going to happen.
That's right. But my point is, some of this idea of, and the same thing with this, consulting gig, right? Because you worked at company X for 20 years, maybe you have some experience. Yeah. But to develop a consulting practice, that involves networking, that involves having contacts, that involves people knowing what you do for a living. It has some value.
You know what else it warrants? It warrants you wanting to do it.
Yeah.
You got to. I mean, if you're, you have to. If you're going to work, post like your real retirement, you got to want to do it now. Or you either want to do it or you have to do it. Right? You may say, okay,
if you work 30 years for the man, working for yourself, that you might as well be trying to learn a foreign language.
Yep.
That concept is something you might have contemplated behind your cubicle for 30 years, but the actual going out and executing on that,
going out and selling bonsai gardens.
That's a different animal, right? And if you've never tried it, you never had it. I mean, again, I absolutely understand what you're saying. Is people have to figure out what their retirement looks like, and part of that could be part-time work. But I think you also have to think about what the reality of the part-time work is, because you might say to yourself, I want it to be the consulting gig, which might take however long to get up and running, which may never happen. Or it might be, hey, can I help you in the lumber aisle over here at Home Depot?
That's right.
Which, by the way, both put money in your pocket. It's a question of how much do you want to take home with you, right? You want any baggage or no, right?
Both put money in your pocket. One probably has a lot less effort, a lot less time commitment than the other one does. One could be far more rewarding than the other. I mean, So the idea of, you hit the nail on the head. It's like, okay, so what is, where's your money going to come from?
Right.
And then the other, which begs the question of, how much money do I need? How much money do I need per month to live? Like, what does my budget require of how much money I need? So if you think you're going to retire, or you may say you want to retire, or you're kind of put in a position where you feel like I have to retire due to health reasons, then it's like, okay, I need to figure out where this money is going to come from. And it may very well be, I have to work. I have to continue to work because I can't start taking Social Security because I'm 60 years old. And we had a client that this happened to. health, had health issues, retired at age 60, and all the money had to come from his war chest.
Retirement savings, yeah.
Had to come from his retirement savings until we got to age 62. And then, and he's like, well, you know what? I don't think I want to wait to take Social Security. I want to wait to take Social Security. But, at that point, we're like, well, look, if you're required to have $70,000 a year and we're drawing, 7+% out of, that's putting a strain on your, on your, now granted, in good markets, everybody looks smart, but when over time, that could put a significant strain on your, where it could, down the road, you could potentially not have enough money to generate that kind of income.
Well, and I think the issue that you're hitting on, and we try to highlight this for clients all the time, which is, look, even if somebody says, I was hoping to not work part-time in retirement, I always try to explain to people it's a lot easier to work part-time from 62 to 70 than it is from 78 to 87, right? I mean, you don't want to decide in your late 70s, oh, I should have worked a little longer. Now I'm going to go find a part-time job, right? You'd rather say, look, I'm going to do it on the front end because that way it's going to make these back-end decisions. The taper factor goes in the right direction, right? That's the idea. You want to taper out. You don't want to taper in.
Yeah. And again, separating from the workforce, or for a period of time, that makes things a little more difficult to kind of come back in. So there's that factor as well. So the question is, okay, if someone says I want to retire early, what are your sources of income, and how much is that going to conceivably generate? Because people could get, they may say, well, oh yeah, I have $500,000, that should be fine, and you're like, well, no, you need to, if you're generating more than, if you need more than 5% of $500,000 per year, then again, you could be putting yourself in jeopardy.
Yeah, maybe 500,000. Maybe it could work, depending on. But again, to your point from earlier, if somebody's sitting on a sizable pension or a lifetime pension that's $6,000 or $7,000 a month because of all the work they did, $500,000 on the side
could be fine.
Might absolutely do the trick, but it also might not. If that's the only thing you're walking out the door with, that's a different challenge.
Right. So what are my sources of income? What's my cost to live? And then do the math on it, and then say, okay, am I going to break even? And if I am going to break even, like, is it a comfortable breaking even, or is it like I don't know, I'm scared, because that's the thing. If you're getting ready to pull the trigger and you're going to like walk away from your job and just because I can say that I want to retire early. You have to have some cushion, right?
Oh yeah.
Because what's another factor? What's another cost that oftentimes, many times, if I'm going to retire before age 65, what's a huge cost? One of my huge line item numbers that I'm going to pay. It's the top thing people talk about.
Health insurance.
Health insurance.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's right. Well, and your client at 60, right? Because everyone looks at, in addition to the Social Security number, they also look at 65 for Medicare.
Yep.
Right?
That's a huge number.
That's a finish line that people cross, and they say, now I don't have to worry. I've got cover. Even if I get the bare bones basic coverage, I at least get that red, white, and blue card, and if I walk into the doctor's, someone's going to treat me, right? And that's huge, huge.
And so oftentimes, if you say, well, you'll have somebody that'll retire at age 65, but their spouse won't be 65, like they'll be younger, so you'll have to pay for Medicare or pay for health insurance for them up to age 65 till they qualify for Medicare. So if someone says I'm retiring at 60 and they don't have, sometimes they'll have health benefits that'll be given to them, but that's the first question that you ask. Say, okay, how are we paying for health care? Because what we tend, and you're the same way, you don't want to skimp on health care when you're 60.
Well, if you're going to skip, we joke about it driving over here. You want to skimp on health care, you do it at 25.
Yeah, you do it at 25, right?
Yeah, chances are I'm probably not going to go to the doctor this year. I play Ultimate Frisbee 4 times a week. I'm in 6 adult soccer leagues, and I go to the gym 7 to 8 times a week.
And every night. Right. And
my resting heart rate is, that's right.
The only time I go to the hospital is to pick up my girlfriend.
That's right. Who's the nurse? It's the only time I'm there. It's the only time I'm there, right? So, or a doctor. Either way, but that's fine. So that's the idea. So you're right. I mean, and here's the other piece. The way the healthcare landscape is changing, a lot of times these companies now will say, yeah, guess what? We don't offer spousal coverage. Yeah, we offer coverage for the employees. Your spouse is not covered. So a lot of people will say, well, the only reason I'm working is for health insurance.
Yeah.
Well, that may not be the case, right?
Yeah, you may not be working at all.
You might get really jammed up here. So you have to think about, to your point, think about those things and how they factor into your budget, because it's a budget buster. It could be.
So, but on the one hand, so when we're kind of coaching people like into this retirement, into their, kind of getting to retirement. On the one hand, people say, well, I have to work to age 65 because of health care.
Yep.
And then I'll say, okay, maybe you do, but all healthcare it's a line item number. It's a cost, right?
Yep.
So like, if you can retire at age 60 and you have a $6,000 a month pension and you have $1 million in your 401k and you only need, maybe, $80,000 a year to live, you're including a $12,000 a year healthcare cost.
Yeah.
I would be like, well, you're there.
You're
Like
close.
You're close. And I wouldn't let my company's healthcare plan, which I'm probably paying something for anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
There's probably some cost.
Yeah, your true cost might be less than you think it is.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like let that wag the dog on whether or not I'm going to retire.
Right,
It's a cost. It's a significant cost. It's something you don't want to skimp on. It's a cost that's probably going to go up as you get, because as with all healthcare, costs tend to increment, like they go up just because. Sure. So it's something you have to factor in. But at the same time, it may not be the deciding factor on whether you can retire early.
Right, an important factor, but it may not be a budget buster. It might not be a deal breaker. I guess is what I was saying.
Yeah.
You might be able to work around it.
All right, so let's take a break and we'll come back and talk about some of the other nuances of retiring early, some of the cool parts about it, and some of the things that you can do that people may not realize. So we'll be right back on my FM.
Nice segue.
On my FM 101.3 with Money and Law. Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group. I'm John Drohan from Main Effort Financial. That is Christian from the Holliston Cable Access TV. We're also going to wave to Don, Bruce.
Cronin,
right?
The Barbarian.
That's right.
Yes.
Lisa, all the people at HCAT, because they like it when we say their names.
Yes, they do. And they airbrush us in and they make us look skinny and fit and all that stuff.
They make us look really, really skinny.
Yep.
Although, I feel like I look fat next to you. I feel like you've been working out, right?
I get that a lot. I get that a lot.
Right.
Especially this time of the year. Beach season, bikini season coming up. I got to look good.
You know what it is? Because you shave that dopey beard of yours, right? And seriously, you knock 20 years off your life.
I know. That's
all right.
way
We'll be right back.
And you're back with Money and Law, my FM 101.3, broadcasting live from the New England Bonsai Garden Studios here in beautiful downtown Milford, Massachusetts. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group, John Drohan, Main Effort Financial, Christian HCAT, keeping it real, and my FM 101.3, talking early retirement. Not the retirement that we talk about on the estate side, which means you retired early and then we have to do some probate work. This is actually the fun retirement. That's a different retirement. This is the fun retirement where you actually get the chance to wrap it up early and actually do exactly what you like. It's funny. My old man, when he wrapped it up at 60, and which was early.
Yeah.
And he wrapped it up at 60 because he was a quasi-government employee. And they were cleaning house a little bit, and they said, "Hey, look, we'll add a couple of years to your pension if you want to walk out the door. We'll treat you like you're 62, which is when he was planning on getting out."
Yep.
And he said, "Hey, Christmas come early. I'm no problem. I'm going to take it." But I think you mentioned it before the break on one of the earlier today. You said, you have to be ready, to retire. And he was absolutely ready. I have a physical job for 37 years. But I remember saying to him, and in true my dad fashion, after he made all the decisions, he said to me, "Hey, by the way, we should probably talk. I want to make sure I'm ready to go, right? I'm ready to go." And I said, "Okay."
I've been out of work for 6 months.
Yeah. By the way, today's my first day off. You get a minute? I wanted to come by the office and do some retirement planning. I just put my papers in, right? I remember saying to my father, I said, "Look, Dad, this is as good as it gets, right?" He was in a system where seniority counted, right? Seniority mattered. And I said to him, this is for you. This is as good as it gets. So if for some reason you were not ready to retire, to a certain extent, the ability to hang on gets no better than where you are right now.
Yeah.
I said, because once you walk out the door, to your point, you're done.
Yeah.
He couldn't change his mind and say, "Hey, guys, I want to come back. Can I go back to the top of the list," right? Because he could pick his job. He could work whatever he wanted to do. I mean, he had all the trappings of a system that was set up like that. But I just said to him, make sure you're ready, because if you're not ready, or if it doesn't work out for you, or you change your mind, but you're not going to go back to work then. Mentally, you're just not geared to go do something else other than what you were doing. And he never had to. He never looked back. When he was done, he was done. It worked out fine. He was retired for almost 12 years. But to your point, that's not even the numbers part of it. The numbers part of it, he was like, "Yeah, I get that all buttoned up. I mean, I get what I get, and if I work longer, I'm not going to get more," right?
Yeah,
the system was set up where he was getting the most he was going to get. That was it.
So if you're in one of those pension systems, I mean, you're working for kind of pennies on the dollar. It's like, okay, so I'm working for 25 cents or 30 cents on the dollar, just for going to work. Where if I retire today, I'm going to get 70% of what I'm getting paid right now.
Right.
So you're like, well, why wouldn't I retire right now?
Right. Now, and some people don't because they like the work, right? They really enjoy the work.
Well, that's the point, right? The point is that, look, you have to be mentally ready. You have to have a plan. You have to have a retirement plan. You say, okay, I'm going to retire, and your retirement, and if your retirement plan is, I am going to retire and I'm going to sit in front of that TV and I'm going to watch TV, your advisor, if they're worth anything, or your spouse or your children are going to be like, Dad, don't do that. Like, that's bad. You're going to get old. You're going to get fat. You're going to get sick, and don't do that. They may say that's the wrong. Now, most people don't. Most people be like, well, I want to retire because here's my list, and it's 5 pages long of all the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
Like often the big one. I want to travel. We want to travel. We want to be able to spend more time. We want to be able to spend more time with our grandkids.
Right. And they don't live around here. We want to go see them.
Yeah,
they're all over the country.
We want to go see them. We really want to. We have a house down in Cape Cod. We want to go. We want to spend a lot of time down there.
Yeah.
We want to spend all summer down there, as opposed to like weekends or a week or two here and there.
But here's the point also that you kind of touched on those two worlds. But here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to say to yourself, here's my list of all the things I want to do, and guess what? I can't afford to do all of them.
Yeah.
So my retirement now is sitting in that chair watching Law and Order all day long, right? That's the challenge of bringing those two plans together, right? The plan that you don't want to have and the plan that you want to have, and you want to pick and choose from those two.
So I guess my point is you have to have a plan of, like, what are you going to do with your time? Because oftentimes people be retired, like people, you'll have this, the husband and the wife, and the wife or whoever's retiring, the other one will say, I'm going to have them around the house all the time.
Yeah.
Like I won't be able to take it. Like he needs something to do. Like
that's a real thing.
It is. I mean, we joke about it, but it is a real thing.
Oh yeah.
It's a real thing. Like, if you don't have anything to do and you're like, well, I've been working for 40 years and now I'm home and I'm bumping into walls and I don't have anything to do.
Yeah.
Then it's like, then what we found is people get old fast, and where, if I'm 65 or 60 or whenever I retire, like, after that I start to get like, if I'm not active, if I'm not like involved in things, if I'm not involved with other people, then I start to they get old, they age.
Well, and here's actually a great point, because if you don't vocalize this, right, if you don't talk about these things, if you don't put all these challenges on the table, what you're potentially setting yourself up for is a miserable retirement, right? And miserable retirement in the sense that somebody walks around bumping into those walls that you just talked about, fighting with their spouse because they're in each other's way, because they never ever went through the process of saying, what do I want our retirement to look like, right? And financial tension and financial stress is one of the things that every couple goes through at multiple stages during their lifetime together. But this is a big one, right? This is one of those, I wanted to do all these things in retirement, and now I'm not getting to do them. This isn't what I wanted my retirement to look like, right? And in many cases, to your point, you've closed some doors, right? So if this is a mistake or if this isn't working, you may not have the option to go back and sort of re-ring that bell because it's done, right? You've given your papers. They've given your job to somebody 20 years younger than you.
And they're saving a lot of money,
That's right, that's right.
So if I'm that person and I'm like, okay, I'm going to retire, what is it? What is it what's my driving force that's behind retirement? And maybe the force is I just can't do it anymore. Maybe I physically can't do it anymore. Sure. Maybe I
mentally can't do it anymore.
I just don't. It's too stressful. So then the next question is, well, what's your plan? What's your retirement plan? And the answer very well could be, I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. And that's okay, right? That's okay.
That's a fine answer. Yep.
That's okay because now you're retiring because I just can't do that job, but I may be able to do something else. I don't know. And then we look at it. We look at everything. It's okay. Well, blah blah blah. Here's your money. Here's what your war chest looks like. Here's how much income you're going to get. Do you have to get another job? And the answer may be no. I don't have to get another job. I can afford to live on that.
I probably will.
Yeah.
That's usually the answer you get. But to your point, the point of, well, you don't have to, that brings a degree of, satisfaction, if you will, where somebody says, okay, I don't have to leave this job and find another one right away.
But the other side of that is, okay, so if my answer is I don't know, my mom's a great example, right? So my mom, when she retired, my dad passed away. Well, my mom retired before my dad passed away, so then and took care of him. And then when he passed away, she was like, now she didn't have anything to do, right? She was like kind of on her own. And she moved from Connecticut to Massachusetts. So now she's in Massachusetts by herself, and it's like, and we'd say, like, what are you going to do? And she's like, I don't know. But, fortunately, she's like kind of an energetic lady, and she's,
Right.
she's not afraid to go meet people. She's like not afraid to make friends. So she didn't know what she wanted to do, but she knew she wanted to do something,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So she knew
Yep.
there was something out there. And you know what? If you're retired and you're financially stable and you don't know what you want to do, but if there's something out there you're just going to go look for it, then there you go. There's your home run right there, because now I'm like, okay, now I can go try anything. It's like your first day of college at the activity fair, and you're like, oh, do you want to do the a cappella group? Yeah, I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Do you want to play golf? Yeah, I'm going to try that.
Yeah,
and you
join up all of it.
And you can do that, and then whatever sticks, whatever you like, whatever becomes like becomes your thing, or the people that you like, then you can kind of go with that, and before you know it, now not only are you retired and you're not working anymore and you're not like kind of beholden to your job, but now you're doing something that you like and you didn't even know you liked it, right? So,
well, and I think some of this involves a little bit, we talked about the pre-work on some of this. Some of this involves trying some of these things with the idea that it's not a lifetime sentence, right? I mean, I do a lot of work in town, and I work with a lot of groups in town, and I work with a lot of volunteer organizations in town. And we always try to tell people, if you want to volunteer, because every once in a while somebody will roll in the front door and they'll say, okay, I'm retired. I just retired. Congratulations to me. I just retired. Now,
where do you need me?
Now I want to do something. Now I want to do something, right? So put me to work. And then everybody's standing around going, okay, well, we don't know you. First of all, who are you, right? Never seen you before. This is not everybody, but this happens. What are your skills like? I have no idea what your skill set is, right? If you're an accountant, do I give you a rake or do I give you a pencil, right? What do I want to have you do, right? And then they
start with a rake.
But then their point, they want to give back, but they don't know how to give back. They don't know where they can give back, because to some degree, this is new territory for them, right? This is their first day at the activity fair, and they don't even know what activity they want to take part in, right? So they're just so, but again, I think you also run the risk of making, again, bad decisions, right? Well, I'm going to put my name in. I want to be on the Agricultural Commission because I grew up in Dorchester, and my whole life has been surrounded by cement, but I think the Agriculture Commission sounds exciting. Or not, right? You won't know, you'll find out. And then to your point, if they do a couple of these things and there's some false starts, now frustration sets in, discontentment sets in. People start to say this was a mistake. So again, I think the point is you need to practice at a little bit of this. Don't wait until you walk out the door and show up like a bright, shiny new penny and say, okay, somebody give me something to do, because it doesn't always necessarily work that way. No. You gotta make, just like you make connections in business to kind of move things along, you got to make connections in retirement to move things along, and that's difficult. It's not as easy as it sounds.
Right, because I know just how my mom's, I'll use her as the example. So she's involved in a couple of nonprofit organizations, and they're always, they're like, their arms are wide open. So if somebody wants to come in, like, come here, young grasshopper, but it'll be like, a guy will be, I'm a retired plastic surgeon. Oh, great, here, go rake the back of the church, and he'll be like, some people will be like, great, this is just what I want to do.
15 yards of mulch out there. Fantastic. Glad you showed up.
That's right. Yep. Or they may be like, well, I was going to, I would like to consult, or I would like to,
I want to set up a free clinic where everybody gets to come in. Great. Okay, we have a broom closet over there. Again, there's a broom in there. The floor needs some cleaning, and so again, that's a real thing. There's a real expectations issue here around. Because, again, I'll make fun of AARP, right? You see these commercials about, hey, AARP can help you talk about what you want to do in retirement. And guess what every one of those jobs is? It looks like you're working back on Wall Street, right? I mean, hey, guess what? I've retired, and they want you to do all the day trading for this tiny, small, nonprofit organization. Here's your office that overlooks, Post Office Square, downtown Boston. You get a coffee, you get a secretary, you get an assistant. Right?
I love being retired.
This is unbelievable. That's not what happens. No. To your point, it's exactly what they say. Here's a rake. The back of the church is a mess. We got a couple of squirrels and a badger living back there. I need you to clear them out.
I like the 15 yards of mulch. That's 15 yards of mulch.
That's potentially what happens, right? It's not mentoring young minds, right? You're not working in the West Wing, right? This is what you're going to be doing. That's right.
You're not teaching that one class a week at BC.
Get the bats out of the garage. That's what we want you to do. Get the bats out of the garage, right? Oh, by the way, and there's no money to do it. So you got to go down to True Value, talk to the guys down there, and put a couple of bucks in of your own.
Checkbook.
There's your volunteer opportunity, right? That's what happens. Potentially, that's what happens. And you have to be prepared for that. Because if that's not what you want, you're going to go back home and you're going to say to your spouse, this is what I retired for?
Yeah.
Rake the driveway,
Yeah,
right?
I never raked it. I didn't even know we owned a rake.
Yeah. What's raking? What's raking? I'm a plastic surgeon. We have a landscape company. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
It's exactly right. It's a phenomenal point.
So the back to kind of the whole idea of like if I'm going to retire early, whenever I'm going to retire, but if I'm going to retire early, then I really need a plan. Not only do I need a financial plan of how I'm going to like make my money last and potentially get me to to where I'm going to draw Social Security or where I'm going to be able to fully vested for my pension or something like that. But I need to have like that idea of, okay, where do I want to go? And if I don't know what that answer exactly is, at least I know what direction I want to go.
Yeah,
I know I want to get involved with something, or maybe I want to move, or maybe oftentimes people are like, well, I'm going to retire and I'm going to take a year and I'm going to kind of do that. I'm going to do just that. I'm going to feel things out. I'm going to figure out kind of where I want to be. And then some people are like, you know what, I'm going to retire, and before they know it, something comes up and like, oh, by the way, Lily just had her second baby and she wants to go back to work, and like, okay, well, I guess I know what I'm doing in my retirement. 3 days a week I'm watching, Mutt and Jeff. And
by the way, you bring up a phenomenal point. By the way, that's the other thing. What is your family's expectation of what your retirement looks like, right? Because that thing you just hit, that nail you just literally just uncovered, that's a big issue. And a lot of families, if you talk to them, well, they'll tell you, well, my mother and father, they just retired. So, we just got basically built-in daycare. Do mom and dad know that? Well, we haven't really broached the subject with them. What we're kind of doing is we're going to hope that they just keep coming over to see the grandkids, and then one day we're just not there when they do it. That's right. That's right. We're going to keep telling them, why don't you come over at come over at 9, come over at 8:30, come over at 8, come over at quarter to 7.
8:45. Bring them at 8:15 because I got to be on the train by 8:20. Yeah. And by the way, we live in Arlington, so could you drive to Arlington during rush hour?
Yeah. And if you could do that like 5 days a week, that'd be super. Super.
You know what? Not on the weekends because we're home most weekends.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm not saying you have to make the dinner, but if you could just pull it together, I can throw it together when I get in after work. But if you could just organize
I love
it all.
When you make that. Yeah.
But nobody makes it like you, Ma. Nobody makes it like you. Your special secret approach to that. So that's what's your family's expectations?
And you know where the washing machine and dryer are, right? Too. So
and during nap time while you're hanging around.
Yeah,
wouldn't kill you to throw a load in for crying out loud. I'm giving you're seeing the grandkids. I mean, I did that part.
You know what it's going to be, right? With our luck, our grandchildren will be all boys. And it'll be a totally different, it'll be a different experience than we're used to. It'll be full throttle, like, it'll be like rugby, like you chase it. And because, as everybody knows, boys are different than girls, especially like when they're, as they start to get their legs under them and start moving.
Well, I'm in the middle of studying the girls' owner's manual right now. And when you open up the owner's manual, when you get the paperwork and you open it up the wrong way, and so you get every language but the English version, that's what the owner's manual right now for me is like. I rip this thing open, and there's no English section to the owner's manual.
Why?
I got it in French, I got it in Chinese, I got it in Swedish, I got it in every language but the one I need. So, yes, I have absolutely no idea how this thing works, and that's exactly what's going to happen to me. I'm going to get thrown that on the other end.
But you know what? You'll do fine.
We'll see.
You'll do fine.
Then I'll go back to work. That's right. Then I will get my law degree back on track, and I'll probably, that'll keep me going.
Yeah, go ahead. Kim, listen, you got the guys, you got the boys,
right?
right?
Doing a great job. Doing a great job. I'll be down the office all day. Yeah, with Drohan. Yeah, he just moved his office in next door. We get a lot of work to do down there. We're getting the band back together.
We eventually decided to go back to work, just part-time.
Yep. Took 70 years. We're finally partnering up. Finally, we knew we'd eventually come around to this. Yeah,
it's only
good
a
stuff.
matter of time.
Good
All right,
stuff.
so we're going to wrap it up. There's a couple things that we probably didn't get to, but maybe next time we could touch on just some of the. I wanted to touch on like if you were going to retire really early, meaning like if you were going to retire before age 59 and a half. Because remember, 59 and a half that's the IRA year, right?
Yeah.
That's the year when I can start to draw money out of my IRA. Without a 10% penalty, and that's either my Roth IRA or a traditional IRA or a 401k. I can take money out of that without the 10% penalty. Now,
still going to pay taxes.
Oh yeah, you'll pay your taxes, but there's no But if I take it before then, unless it's for some type of a qualified withdrawal, I'm going to pay a 10% penalty. So that's really that first target year is like, okay, 59 and a half. If I'm going to take it before then, that's going to require some planning because I'm not even close to Social Security. And maybe, and that's when we take a good hard look at your assets and say, okay, look, how are you going to make money? How are you going to be able to do that? Now, there's many people don't realize this, but if you have a 401k, so if you have a 401k, you can draw money as long as it stays in the 401k. Financial planners out there who always want to roll that 401k out. This is the bane of your existence. Yeah. And so if you are thinking about retiring early, like say around 55 to 59. So if you're retiring to 55 and your financial planner says, oh, let's roll that $2 million IRA
let's
out.
Get that right over here.
Whoa, because that may be a bell that you cannot unring. Correct. And then you're in trouble. You're in trouble because from a 401k, I can take money I can take money out before age 59.5. So between 55 and 59.5, I can take money, I can withdraw from my 401k without paying the 10% penalty, so long as it stays in the 401k. So the first thing I'll tell people when they're talking about retiring early, I'll say, okay, I want to retire, I want to retire at 57. I'm like, okay, here's the deal. And he's like, and then they'll say, we want to roll it into with the rest of our IRA. We want to generate income like you've been.
Our advisor told us that's a great idea.
No, I'm talking about my client.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My client. So my client will be like, this is what I want to do. And I'll be like, look, there's nothing more that I want to do.
I love your enthusiasm. I love your enthusiasm.
Nobody wants to roll that thing out more than I do. However, we're not going to do it because there's a potential that you may need to take money from that 401k before you hit age 59.5. Now, at age 59.5,
all bets are off. Let me go get that.
Happy
birthday. Happy birthday. What are you doing here, John?
Yeah, it's your 59.5 birthday.
I have a card for you. What's in the card? Oh, some paperwork. Here, let's fill out the transfer of assets form.
So if that's the fiduciary thing to do, then by all means we'll do it. But
now let me ask you this though. So that rule also applies to self-employed, solo 401k.
To solo 401ks, yes, it does.
So to your point from earlier in the show, if somebody thinks they're going to walk out the door, wrap it up, and do some consulting, and that's their game plan. Talking to your advisor might be able to say to you, hey, we have a couple of options here as part of this landscape.
That's right.
Let's figure out what direction we're going to go in and what makes the most sense.
We can do. All right, so we'll touch on that a little bit next time.
Exciting. That's a reason. That alone right there, reason to come back.
That's a reason to come back. All right, so this is it. We're going to wrap it up for this week. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us on Holliston Cable Access TV.
Always a pleasure.
I think that our faces are a little bit better seen.
That may be a win. That could be a lose. We'll see what the public. See what our adoring public thinks about that. Get a lot of emails that say fix the mics the way they were.
The jury's deliberating on that right now.
All right.
All right. So we'll see you everybody next week on My FM 101.3, broadcasting live from the New England Bonsai Garden Studios. Here we are. I mean, I can hear like birds and toucans, and
I feel like it's just meditation. It's just so relaxing.
But I'm not a fall asleep kind of relax, like a
like
a yoga
like
kind
a
of
zen, like a zen, like my chi is all aligned.
Exactly.
I love it. It's good stuff.
That's right. All right, we'll see everybody next week. I'm John Drowan from Main Effort Financial with my pal Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group. All right, we'll see you.
Have a great week, everybody. Take care.
Good night.